Hey, Noah.
Hello, Mark. Good to see you.
Good to see you. It's always a pleasure. It's been a few years we've been connecting and meeting up, probably best part of 15, 20 years since you set up Coupa all those years ago. But
Yeah.
I think no better person to actually talk about, I guess, the future of procurement, the practitioner's role, from your background in Oracle, and then all the way through to advising some of the hottest startups and scale-ups, not just in the procurement world, but more broadly. So it'd be great to get your thoughts about the future role of a procurement practitioner in this new digital AI age. The mindset, the thinking, where do you think they are?
Yeah. Happy to talk about it. It's exciting. Thanks, everyone, for coming. When I think about, before talking about what is the new mindset, I think back about what's changed over the years, and I've been around procurement technology for a long time and the procurement space, so I kind of feel we're in this fourth major wave, major change. Starting in the mid-90s with the communication wave, which is the introduction of the internet and how that brought on that first level of procure tech. And that was awesome, but it also was so rigid. And so that second wave hit in kind of the mid-2000s, and that was a lot around, I put it as the consumerization of the enterprise, but it was employing new technologies that gave back control to the procurement department, to end users and IT. And then we had an external wave that hit us, which is the amount of supply chain disruptions that everybody's feeling, whether it's currently tariffs, COVID, wars, strikes, climate change, all these things have happened, and now all of a sudden procurement leaders are thinking less just inside the four walls of your environment, but now your suppliers, and all of their impacts. And now we have AI. And I'd argue, and AI could be a bigger change than the internet, but it is certainly on par with that. And so I think when I think about what you need in this AI world is a shift in mindset to be one which is, I think we've all seen it, which is procurement people that are more adaptable than ever before. I think you have to be inquisitive. This is a learning thing, and you need to be looking at hiring the right talent to bring on board. And so I think if you have those things right, you're going to be off to a good start.
Yeah, I think that curiosity and interest is a key one. Rick Vera, I think you met him in Amsterdam in the past. He talks about this net curiosity score. We want to be hiring people with high net curiosity score, but just intrigued about the technology and willing to adapt and maybe test and play with the AI, because we're all learning as it comes out with the new LLM model or the new tech as well. When we look at the right talent for the future, and you've built technology for procurement practitioners all the way through, is there a change in the job to be done from category managers to the sourcing people to the CPO? Do you think we need to start rethinking their roles?
Yeah, I do think every role will be impacted, from procurement execution, categories, sourcing managers, accounts payable, everything will be impacted. And it's interesting because one of the hard questions is, how do you logically organize your function, your teams in this new world of AI? And my first inclination, and I've been running product teams, is always let the people that are doing the function figure this out. And I think that's good up to a point, but when I've always been a product person, so I'm on this Chief Product Officer Council with some of the largest companies in enterprise software and consumer software, and we're talking about AI for product teams. And even though these teams are very strong and very technical, what we found is the best practice is actually to bring together, kind of centralize your AI efforts to begin with. And so what that means is essentially hiring the right leader and building both product and engineering people that can understand the latest and greatest, look at what your challenges are, what are the most important use cases to go after, and then work with the teams, whether they be on the sourcing side, whether they be on the category strategy side, analytics, wherever, to make their lives better. But I think it's going to be challenging if you just said to your sourcing people, go take advantage of AI. I think it's best if you do kind of put together a central team.
Yeah, I guess from your time in Amazon, obviously they create rather innovative teams and kind of break barriers in terms of product. You've got that background there as well. But again, if we look at that and we start thinking about the engineering role, so the prompt engineers, is that one individual coming into your center of excellence to be your category engineer to kind of fuel the team? Where would you start in that one? If you had only one hire to take.
Only one hire? My recommendation would always be hire someone who has hands-on capability but the capacity to be a leader. And so I'd be looking for someone that spends time in these models and tries to understand what it can do. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've talked to friends and colleagues and others and I'm like, why aren't you using ChatGPT or Perplexity or Claude or whatever? Pick your model for doing that for your own work. Whether you're planting a garden or analyzing a contract or whatever, this is like, we should not, I'm using Google a lot less, but the amount of work, and so if you bring in someone who has kind of this LLM mindset and figuring out what can do and how to apply it to the procurement problem, I think smart people could figure that out rather than, well, let me just take maybe my brightest person in category management and bring them over.
So they don't actually need to come from the procurement function?
I found I found that within the right environment, you can learn the functional need. Most people didn't study procurement and sourcing in undergrad. We kind of learned it along the way. Might be a contrarian viewpoint, but I believe I'd be hiring someone, if you had multiple hires, maybe that leader would be a procurement and sourcing person, and then but you gave me the choice of only hiring one person, so that's what I'm sticking with.
Easy one. So Noah, maybe we'll bring you back to the event here. We've got a huge amount of different tech providers. I think we've seen spider diagrams, we've seen all sorts of maps of the new technologies that are coming in, and obviously the ones that have been here for a while, scaling and adapting as well. Obviously CPOs and procurement leaders are looking at these technologies, but how do you kind of look at the landscape today and start thinking about the new segmentations of these or the new categories that are emerging?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I think you've got to be thinking first and foremost, what are your problems and what do you need to solve? And what I've found helpful is having kind of a framework for the capacity of people I have, whether it was engineers, product people, salespeople, whatever it was. I had this kind of framework that called a third, and a third of my capacity, of my team's capacity, was always solving the known knowns. Like we need to deliver features X, Y, Z. All the customers are asking, all my stakeholders are asking. We got to do that. That's the one third. The second third was the logical extensions. Maybe not everybody's asking, maybe not my customers, but this allows me to do new things that I hadn't thought of. The people weren't necessarily asking, some people, and I could now expand my scope. You know, maybe I wasn't doing sourcing for these areas. Now I'm going to be, you know, bringing in that capability because of the amount of spend that we're doing in there is significant. And the last third was one that I think made my company special, but also we're seeing a lot of it now, which is that innovation third. And the way innovation happens doesn't come out of, you know, a bunch of people just standing around and getting in a room. It starts with spending time looking out what's out there. And understanding, taking in all these inputs of what other companies are doing, what other, you know, technology vendors are doing, consultants, all these things, what my stakeholders want, and then, you know, taking that in and say, what can we do that's special, that nobody's thought about? And I think what I would say is, you know, there's a lot of vendors here, there's a lot of vendors out there. It's hard. You've got to kind of work your way through their sales pitch and their buzzwords and all the like. But, you know, deep down, you're trying to gather enough information so that you could say, hey, well, we have a real problem in supplier risk. We saw some good ideas, but what if I take the best of all of these and come together, whether it's something we buy, build, or partner, but that's what I would be doing.
It's, I think also that you need to take a position where you can be sometimes an innovator or an early adopter in a category as well. So maybe monitoring that technology for something that you engage on the next horizon of your innovation side as well. There's lots of buzzwords going around. I talked about AI native at the moment. We have AI first. If you put AI anywhere, maybe a bit of orchestration there, we can come up with most of the positioning of a lot of tech companies. More of the question is, how do you engage? You're an investor, you're an advisor, but how do you engage with some of these earlier stage companies? Because it is a different approach than engaging with the larger companies out there as well.
Yeah. Yes and no. I mean, I think engaging with these people is sharing your challenges and seeing if they're listening to you, and if they're coming. So you shared your problems, you shared your challenges, what your true pains are, and if they're coming back and they're saying, this is how we would directly apply our solution to your pains, then they're at least listening and they're taking a step. They're not giving you a canned demo or a canned speech and you know, their regular value proposition, but what's the value proposition to me? Because I've just shared with you a lot. Now you need to start doing something for me. And I think that's the healthy way. And I've guided so many tech vendors, like if you walked up to them and you said, tell me about XYZ, and they start giving you the pitch on XYZ, they've made an error. Their first thing should be asking you, well, tell me about you and what your problems are, and they should be listening. Too many tech vendors don't listen, so.
Some active listening and asking the questions of the customer first. I think it's a good one. I want to jump back to your time at Amazon.
Yeah.
Culturally, a company of huge innovation, and it must have been really exciting at working there. What are some of the lessons you can share with the attendees here around working in both highly effective operational teams, but also innovating and scaling these new opportunities as well?
Yeah. So as a bit of context, I joined Amazon Web Services when they were at a run rate of about 1.3 billion. A few years later, they were at 16 billion. I think they're now in 100 and something billion. So absolute scale craziness. How were they able to do it? There are two major things that Amazon does that I think a lot of companies, a lot of vendors, actually every company should be doing it. One is operational planning, and a lot of companies do a form of it, but I think Amazon does it really well in terms of setting goals that are really clear, setting, having teams write operational plans from bottoms up and planning headcount and things like that. But their operational planning, and I could go on and on about that, but I'll leave it if anybody has questions. I'm happy to do an operational planning deep dive. But the second thing that makes Amazon was able for it to scale as it is its leadership principles, its cultural, its way it works. And they have, at that time, 14 leadership principles. I talked to someone here who works at Amazon, told me they're now 16. I don't think you need 16 leadership principles. I don't think you need 14. But these principles were so unique to me when I came in because I was like, I didn't realize how ingrained they are to their culture, but when they have these things, insist on highest standards, customer obsession, invent and simplify, have backbone, disagree, and commit. I mean, I can still spit off probably 11 of the 14, 12 years after I went into my first session there. Why? Because they use it in hiring. They use it at every part of interviewing. They use it on onboarding. They use it in meetings. They use it in your reviews. So what I'd recommend is thinking about maybe your procurement department sets a set of leadership principles. Go borrow some of Amazon's and think about how you use it, how you ingrain it into your culture. And I think it's actually a really powerful tool to get everybody rowing on the same page. It's fine to have disagreements, but then once there is an agreement to how we're going to move forward. And these leadership principles were key for how Amazon's been able to innovate at scale.
I remember you gave me a challenge of doing an Amazon 6-pager back in the day, Noah, and I struggled. I looked at that Google Doc, and I think I kind of got there. I think with ChatGPT, it's a little bit easier to do it, but it's probably not got the essence of writing every single word as you should do these, because every single word mattered in the 6-pager as well.
It does.
We're kind of wrapping up soon, but I wanted to give you a little bit of a lightning round. So maybe a very quick answer to a few questions in here. So what's one thing a CPO is not doing at the moment, but they absolutely should be doing?
I would just say using an LLM model in your everyday life. Once you start doing that, you'll start using it in your business life, and it'll go from there.
Second one, what kind of people do modern procurement teams need more of? And secondly, less of?
I don't know about less of. I think people need explorers, people that are just like wide-eyed and say, I think there's a way to do something. And whether that's a young person or an old person, this or that, it doesn't matter. It's like looking for those people that are explorers, because those are the ones that are going to be able to tackle this world of AI and have that positive, we could possibly do this.
Brilliant. I presume your boys, they're growing up now, but what's their adoption of AI? They're all over it like a rash.
So yeah, this was my kids, so I have a 20-year-old that's going to be a junior in college, one that's a professional soccer player. They both use ChatGPT. The younger one, I was like, all of a sudden I see a bill for $20 on our card. I'm like, what's going on? He's like, oh, we have to use it. Like their classes, it's required. That's baseline. So you're going to have, when you start hiring that next generation, they're going to expect everyone to be using one of those models because that's what they do.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting one as you hire the next generation, the expectation and probably the adoption of it as well. Staying on the AI side, which use case, if you're a CPO or a procurement team, would you focus on, a real use case for AI?
Okay, so I'll give two. One's kind of obvious on the nose, which is data cleansing. I believe agents can do, I've heard from numerous people, including OpenAI, Kat talked about how the start of the problem was the data. So I'd be thinking about data cleansing agents. The second one is a little different. I had a dinner over at my house, and I live in Silicon Valley, and one of the guys was talking about his friend who schedules one-on-ones with his chat GPT. He's got a marriage coach, he's got an exercise coach, he has a sleep coach, he has an executive coach, he has all these, and they all talk to each other. I haven't quite figured out all these things, but I would recommend like an executive coach, not only for yourself, but for everyone on the team, to have use chat, one of the models, as a coach. You'd be shocked at the insights it provides. And a lot of us, it took I was pretty old before I had my first meeting with an executive coach, and it's been very valuable. And that was a human person. Like, there are so many people on the team that could benefit, and if you start feeding it in, principles have how your company works, your work products, and all of a sudden this model is asking you good questions, and you're asking, how should I have handled this encounter? So that's a unique one I think a lot of people could benefit with.
Brilliant. And the final question for you, Noah. Premier League winners next year?
What's that?
The Premier League winners next year.
Come on, you know that. Liverpool.
There we go. Thank you very much, Noah. I think we've run out of time, but that's been great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers, mate.